The damn window wouldn't budge. 3 a.m., and here I was wrestling with warped Victorian wood while my wife stumbled through the front door reeking of cologne that definitely wasn't mine. The irony wasn't lost on me. I've been trying to fix things that were broken for months now. Eli, you still up? Veronica's voice carried that fake sweetness she used when she'd been drinking. Or lying. These days it was usually both. Just fixing what's broken, I called back, giving the window frame another futile shove. The house groaned around me, old bones settling into familiar complaints. 20 years I'd owned this place, back when Veronica thought my blue-collar charm was refreshingly authentic. Now she acted like grease under my fingernails was a personal insult. She appeared in the doorway, designer heels dangling from manicured fingers, that little black dress riding up her thighs. Once upon a time, that sight would have made me forget all about stuck windows. Now all I could think about was the credit card statement showing charges at restaurants I'd never been to. You know, if you can't handle me spending weekends with my friends, maybe we should just end this charade, she said, swaying slightly. Her lipstick was smudged, her hair was messed in ways that didn't happen from girls' night out. I stopped wrestling with the window and turned to face her fully. You're absolutely right, Ronnie. Something in my tone made her straighten up. The alcohol haze cleared from her eyes as I walked to my desk and pulled out a manila envelope I'd been saving for the right moment. Apparently 3 a.m. on a Tuesday qualified. What's that? She asked, but her voice had gone small. I handed her the envelope without ceremony. Text messages, credit card statements, hotel receipts. Oh, and my personal favorite, the security footage from Alex Stone's building. His doorman's cousin works at my shop. Small world, isn't it? Veronica's face went through a fascinating series of expressions. Confusion, recognition, fear, and finally settling on cold calculation. She didn't even bother opening the envelope. You've been spying on me. I've been paying attention. There's a difference. I sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. Though I have to admit, you made it pretty easy. Using our shared credit card for hotel rooms? Really, Ronnie? I taught you better than that. She clutched the envelope against her chest like a shield. Eli, I can explain. Don't. Please. We both know what this is. I gestured between us. The question is what we do about it. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married, vulnerable, uncertain, almost young again. Then her jaw set in that familiar, stubborn line. If you think you can just throw me away after everything I've sacrificed for this marriage... Sacrificed? The laugh that came out of me was ugly. Honey, the only thing you've sacrificed is your dignity, and apparently that was negotiable. Her face flushed red. You'll regret this, Eli. You have no idea who you're messing with. Actually, I do. I'm messing with a woman who's been cheating on me with Alex Stone for 3 months. A woman who charged $5,000 in lingerie to our joint account. Lingerie I've never seen. A woman who told her lover that her husband was too stupid to figure it out. I stood up, suddenly feeling lighter than I had in months. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner. She opened her mouth to say something else, but I was already heading for the door. Where are you going? To the shop. Unlike some people, I have work in the morning. Eli, wait. But I was already down the stairs, grabbing my keys from the kitchen counter. Behind me, I could hear her following, her bare feet slapping against the hardwood. We need to talk about this like adults. I paused at the front door, hand on the knob. Adults don't sneak around behind their spouse's back, Ronnie. Adults don't lie about working late when they're really in some rich boy's penthouse. Adults sure as hell don't use joint credit cards to buy presents for their lovers. How did you... Never mind. Look, maybe we can work something out. Go to counseling. Start fresh. I turned to look at her one last time. Standing there in her rumpled dress, makeup smeared, clutching evidence of her own betrayal, she looked smaller somehow. Diminished. The locks will be changed by tomorrow afternoon, I said quietly. Your stuff will be on the front lawn by 5 p.m. After that, you can work something out with Alec. The drive to my auto shop took 15 minutes through empty streets, slick with coastal fog. Maine in October had a way of making everything look haunted, and tonight was no exception. Streetlights created little islands of visibility in the gray murk, and my headlights carved a tunnel through the gloom. Granger's Auto Body sat on the corner of Harbor and 3rd, a converted warehouse I'd bought with my settlement money after the accident that ended my construction career. The neon sign buzzed and flickered. I kept meaning to fix it, but somehow the imperfection felt honest. Big Mike's truck was already in the lot, which meant he'd beaten me here, despite it being the middle of the night. Mike Kowalski had been my lead mechanic for 8 years, ever since his wrestling career ended with a torn ACL and a drinking problem. He'd traded the bottle for coffee and late-night conversations about the sorry state of modern automotive engineering. I found him in the office, feet up on my desk, working his way through a crossword puzzle and a cup of coffee that could probably strip paint. "Rough night?" he asked without looking up. "You could say that." I collapsed into the spare chair, suddenly feeling every one of my 38 years. "What's a 7-letter word for betrayal?" "Cheated." He penciled it in. "Also, divorce." "Also, finally." "Finally?" Mike set down the puzzle and fixed me with those serious brown eyes that had intimidated countless opponents in wrestling rings across New England. "Eli, I've been waiting for you to pull your head out of your ass for months. That woman's been making you miserable, and everyone could see it, except you." "Everyone?" "Mrs. Costello's been keeping track of the strange cars in your driveway. My cousin Danny works the door at Harborview Towers. He's seen your wife coming and going from Alex Stone's place since August. Hell, even Detective Doyle mentioned it when she brought her cruiser in for brake work last week." I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache building behind my eyes. "So I was the last to know." "You were the last to admit what you already knew." Mike leaned forward, his voice gentle. "There's a difference." He was right, of course. The signs had been there for months. The sudden interest in yoga classes that somehow lasted until midnight. The new clothes, the new perfume, the way she'd started putting her phone face down during dinner. The credit card charges at places she claimed never to have heard of. "I gave her the evidence tonight," I said. "Good. What did she say?" "That I'd regret it. That I didn't know who I was messing with." Mike snorted. "Alex Stone? That pretty boy couldn't mess with a paper bag. Trust me, I know his type. All flash, no substance. The kind of guy who pays someone else to change his oil. Maybe, but he's got money, connections, that penthouse, the yacht, the whole tech investor thing. And you've got something he doesn't." "What's that?" Mike grinned, and for a moment I could see the wrestler he used to be. "You've got nothing left to lose. And that makes you dangerous." By 6 a.m., I was 3 cups of coffee deep and working on the engine of Mrs. Patterson's Honda when Mrs. Costello appeared at the shop's side door like a gray-haired specter. Elena Costello had lived next to me for 15 years, and in that time, she'd made neighborhood surveillance into an art form. Nothing happened on Maple Street without her knowledge and eventual commentary. "Eliseo," she called, using the full version of my name like my mother used to. "We need to talk." I wiped my hands on a shop rag and followed her outside. The morning fog was starting to lift, revealing a crisp October day that would have been beautiful under different circumstances. "I saw the lights on at your house very late last night," she began without preamble. "And I heard voices. Raised voices. Mrs. Costello. And I saw that woman leave this morning with 2 suitcases and a face like thunder." She fixed me with sharp brown eyes that missed nothing. "I also saw her yesterday afternoon, letting that man into your house while you were at work." That stopped me cold. "What man?" "The one with the fancy car. Silver sports car. License plate says STONE1. Very subtle." Her voice dripped sarcasm. "They were in there for 2 hours, Eliseo. 2 hours while you were fixing Mrs. Chen's transmission." The coffee in my stomach turned acidic. Bad enough that Veronica had been meeting Alec at his place, but bringing him into our house? Into our bed? That was a violation I hadn't even considered. "Did you—" I cleared my throat. "Did you see anything else?" Mrs. Costello's expression softened slightly. "I saw enough to know you deserve better, mijo. That woman never appreciated what she had." "Thanks, Mrs. C. I appreciate." "I also saw her this morning, throwing clothes into garbage bags and cursing in English and Spanish. Quite creative, actually. I learned some new words." Despite everything, I almost smiled. "She's moving out." "Good. Maybe now you can find someone who won't treat your home like a hotel." She patted my arm with surprising gentleness. You're a good man, Eliseo. Don't let her convince you otherwise. After Mrs. Costello left, I called a locksmith and arranged to have the house locks changed by noon. Then I called my lawyer. Not that I expected to need him, but 20 years of marriage meant 20 years of entangled finances, and I wasn't taking any chances. The morning passed in a blur of routine maintenance and oil changes. Working with my hands had always been therapeutic, and today was no exception. There was something satisfying about diagnosing problems and fixing them, about taking something broken and making it whole again. If only marriages were as straightforward as engines. Around 11, Detective Lena Doyle showed up with her personal car, a 10-year-old Subaru that had seen better decades. Lena was one of the good ones, a straight shooter who'd grown up in town and actually cared about the community she served. She'd been bringing her cars to me for years, ever since I'd helped her out of a jam with a lemon she'd bought from a dealer in Portland. "Morning, Eli," she said, climbing out of the Subaru. "Brake pads are squealing again. I told you those rotors needed replacing last time." I popped the hood and took a look. "You can't just keep putting Band-Aids on everything." "Story of my life." She leaned against the fender, watching me work. "Speaking of which, I heard through the grapevine that you and Veronica are having some troubles." I didn't look up from the engine. Grapevine moves fast in this town. Always has. You know, I've had some dealings with Alex Stone over the years. Nothing criminal, mind you, but let's just say he has a reputation. That got my attention. What kind of reputation? The kind that involves expensive lawyers and non-disclosure agreements. He's been through 3 messy breakups in the past 5 years, all with married women. Seems to have a type. Married women? Specifically, married women with something to lose. Social standing, careers, reputations. He gets off on the power dynamic from what I've heard. The thrill of the chase, the secrecy, the drama. She shrugged. Then he gets bored and moves on to the next conquest. I straightened up, wiping my hands on the rag again. "You're telling me this, why?" "Because you're a good guy, Eli. And good guys don't always see the angles the way cops do. Alex Stone isn't just some rich boy having an affair. He's a predator. And predators don't like it when their prey fights back. Meaning, be careful. Men like Stone don't lose gracefully." After Lena left, I found myself thinking about what she'd said. 3 messy breakups, all with married women. Expensive lawyers and NDAs. It painted a picture of someone who made a habit of destroying marriages. Someone who treated other people's lives like a game. The thought made me angrier than I'd been all morning. Around noon, I drove home to meet the locksmith and survey the damage. True to her word, Veronica had cleared out most of her belongings, leaving behind only the furniture we'd bought together and a few items she'd apparently deemed not worth taking. The house felt different, emptier, but also cleaner somehow, like a infection had been drained. The locksmith was a chatty guy named Pete, who'd apparently heard about my situation through the usual small-town channels. "Sorry to hear about your troubles," he said, installing the new deadbolt. "But hey, at least you found out before she could do any real damage, right?" "Right." I wasn't sure I believed that, but it seemed like the appropriate response. You know, I changed the locks on Alex Stone's place about 6 months ago. Same situation. Caught his girlfriend cheating. Of course, that was his 3rd time calling me for the same thing. Pete shook his head. Some guys never learn. 3rd time? Oh yeah, that boy goes through women like I go through drill bits. Always married ones too. Something about the challenge, I guess. He tested the new lock, nodding with satisfaction. "There you go. Nobody's getting in here without your permission." If only it were that simple. I spent the afternoon at the shop, trying to lose myself in work, but my mind kept wandering. Every time the phone rang, I expected it to be Veronica, demanding explanations or making threats. Every time a car pulled into the lot, I expected to see Alex Stone's silver sports car. Instead, around 4 p.m., I got a visit from Big Mike's cousin Danny, the doorman from Harbor View Towers. Danny was younger than Mike, maybe 25, with the same broad shoulders and honest face that ran in their family. "Uncle Mike said you might want to know about some things I've seen," he said, glancing around nervously. "What kind of things?" "Your wife, ex-wife? She's been coming around Mr. Stone's place pretty regular. But she's not the only one. There's been at least 2 other women in the past month, both wearing wedding rings. 2 others? Yeah. One's a redhead, drives a BMW. The other's blonde, always dressed real professional-like. They never come at the same time, if you know what I mean. I did know what I meant. Alex Stone wasn't just cheating with my wife, he was running a whole operation. Multiple married women, carefully scheduled so they wouldn't encounter each other. It was systematic, calculated, almost businesslike in its efficiency. There's something else, Danny continued. Yesterday I heard Mr. Stone on the phone with someone. He was talking about the mechanic and how he wasn't going to be a problem much longer. Said something about having insurance in case things got messy. Insurance? That's all I heard. But Uncle Mike thought you should know. After Danny left, I sat in my office staring at the wall and trying to piece together what I was learning. Alex Stone had a pattern of targeting married women. He was systematic about it, careful to avoid complications. And now he was talking about me like I was a problem to be solved. The question was, what kind of insurance did a man like Alex Stone carry against a man like me? I was about to find out. The answer came at 7 p.m., delivered by Veronica herself in the form of a phone call that started with tears and ended with threats. Eli, please, we need to talk, she began, her voice shaky and small. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, start over, pretend none of this ever happened. I was at home, eating a sandwich that tasted like cardboard, and watching the evening news. On the screen, a meteorologist was predicting fog for the weekend. Perfect weather for what I had in mind. It's too late for that, Ronnie. No, it's not. Look, I know you're hurt, and you have every right to be. But Alec, he's not who I thought he was. He's been using me, Eli. Using me to get back at you. That was interesting. Get back at me? For what? I don't know. Some business thing. He mentioned something about you costing him money, but I wasn't really listening. Her voice was getting stronger, more manipulative. The point is, he played us both. We're victims here. Victims. I took another bite of my sandwich, chewing slowly. That's an interesting way to look at it. We are. He targeted me specifically because I was married to you. He admitted it, Eli. He said I was just a way to hurt you. And you went along with it. I was confused, lonely. You've been so distant lately, so focused on work. I felt neglected, and Alec made me feel special again. Special enough to charge $5,000 in lingerie to our credit card? Silence on the other end of the line. Then, how did you know about that? I pay the bills, Ronnie, remember? The responsible one in this relationship? Fine, yes, I bought some things. But it was for you too, Eli. I was trying to spice up our marriage, make myself more attractive for you. By wearing it to Alec's penthouse. Another silence. Then her voice changed, became harder. You know what? I tried to do this the easy way. I tried to be reasonable, to give you a chance to save face. But if you want to play hardball, we can play hardball. What's that supposed to mean? It means I know things about you, Eli. Things that could make your life very difficult. Things about your business, about some of the work you've done off the books, cash payments, unreported income, safety violations. My blood went cold. She was talking about the side work I did for some of the local fishermen. Cash jobs, no paperwork, helping guys who couldn't afford shop rates keep their trucks running. Nothing illegal, but definitely not by the book. You're threatening me. I'm protecting myself. And if you don't back down, if you don't agree to a quiet, amicable divorce with a fair settlement, I'll make sure the IRS takes a very close look at your books. I'll make sure the state inspector pays you a surprise visit. I'll make sure everyone in town knows what kind of man you really are. And what kind of man is that? The kind who cheats on his taxes and cuts corners on safety. The kind who can't satisfy his own wife. The kind who... I hung up. For a long moment, I sat there staring at the phone, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. She wasn't just leaving me. She was trying to destroy me. Take my business, my reputation, my livelihood. All to protect herself and her rich boyfriend. That's when I decided that being reasonable was off the table. I called Big Mike. I need a favor, I said when he answered. Name it. How do you feel about a little nighttime fishing? Mike was quiet for a moment. Then, what kind of fish are we talking about? The kind that drives a silver sports car and keeps his yacht at the marina. I'll pick you up in an hour. The Breakwater Marina sat at the end of Harbor Street, a collection of floating docks that housed everything from working lobster boats to weekend pleasure craft. Alex Stone's yacht was hard to miss. A 40-foot Beneteau that probably cost more than I'd make in 5 years. The name on the stern read Stone Cold, which told me everything I needed to know about its owner's sense of humor. Mike and I approached from the parking lot, moving quietly through the fog that had rolled in with the tide. The marina was mostly deserted at 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. Just a few lights glowing in cabin windows and the soft sound of rigging clanking in the breeze. "Nice boat," Mike whispered as we crept along the dock. "Shame if something happened to it." "Nothing permanent," I reminded him. "Just embarrassing." I'd brought a small toolkit and a can of marine paint I'd borrowed from a customer's job. Mike had contributed a set of stencils and his artistic talents. The plan was simple. A little cosmetic modification that would make Stone's yacht the talk of the marina. While Mike worked on the hull, carefully stenciling "Home Wrecker" in bright red letters along the waterline, I focused on the engine compartment. Nothing that would cause actual damage. I wasn't interested in sinking the boat or hurting anyone. But a few disconnected wires, some loosened fittings, and a strategically placed banana in the exhaust pipe would ensure that Stone's next romantic cruise ended in embarrassment rather than seduction. "How's it going down there?" Mike called softly. "Almost done. You?" "Just finishing up. This thing's going to be visible from space." As we worked, I found myself thinking about what Veronica had said on the phone. About Alec using her to get back at me, about some business dispute I supposedly cost him money on. I couldn't think of any connection between us. I'd never worked on his car, never had any business dealings with him or his companies. Unless... "Mike, you remember that insurance job about 6 months ago? The hit-and-run claim?" "Which one?" Mike's voice was muffled as he worked. "Silver sports car. Claimed someone keyed it in a parking lot. Insurance wanted us to do the bodywork." "Oh yeah, that one. We turned it down because the damage didn't match the story." "Right. The scratches were too uniform, too deliberate, like someone had done it themselves." "Insurance fraud. We reported it, and they denied the claim." Mike straightened up, admiring his handiwork. "Why?" "Just wondering if that might be the connection Veronica was talking about. You think Stone filed a fraudulent claim, and we cost him the payout?" "It's possible, and it would explain why this feels so personal." We finished our work and slipped away into the fog, leaving Stone's yacht decorated with our message and guaranteed to provide entertainment for anyone who saw it in daylight. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The next morning I was at the shop early, working on Mrs. Patterson's Honda and trying to act normal, when my phone started buzzing with text messages. The first was from Danny at Harborview Towers. "You need to see the marina this morning." The second was from Mrs. Costello. "Turn on Channel 8 News." I found the shop's ancient TV and tuned to the local morning show, just in time to catch the tail end of a story about vandalism at the Breakwater Marina. The camera panned across Stone's yacht, now sporting its new decoration in brilliant red letters, and showed the boat sitting dead in the water about 50 yards from the dock. The yacht's owner, local businessman Alex Stone, discovered the damage this morning when he attempted to take the vessel out for a morning cruise, the reporter was saying. Mr. Stone declined to comment, but marina officials say this is the third incident of vandalism in the past month. The camera cut to an interview with the harbor master, a weathered guy named Tom Brennan, who'd been running the marina for 20 years. "It's a shame when someone's property gets damaged like this," Brennan was saying. "But I have to say, whoever did it knew what they were doing. The boat's not damaged, just decorated, and the engine problems seem to be minor, more embarrassing than anything else." I turned off the TV and went back to work, but I couldn't stop smiling. By noon, half the town would know about Alex Stone's embarrassing morning, and by evening, the story would be all over social media. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Around 10 a.m., Veronica called again. "I know it was you," she said without preamble. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The yacht, Eli. Don't play dumb. I was home all night. Ask Mrs. Costello. She keeps track of everyone's comings and goings. This isn't the game. You're right, it's not. I set down my wrench and gave her my full attention. It's war. You declared it last night when you threatened my business and my reputation. I'm just responding in kind. Alec is furious. He's talking about pressing charges, hiring private investigators. For what? Someone played a prank on his boat. Happens all the time at marinas. Kids, probably. He knows it was you. Knowing and proving are two different things. But hey, if he wants to waste money on private investigators, that's his business. Silence on the other end. Then, this isn't over, Eli. No, I agreed. It's not. The yacht incident was just the beginning. Over the next week, I watched with satisfaction as Alex Stone's carefully constructed image began to crack. The marina story had been picked up by the regional news outlets, and social media had done the rest. #HomeWreckerYacht was trending locally, and Stone's business associates were starting to ask uncomfortable questions. But Veronica wasn't going down without a fight. On Friday afternoon, she showed up at the shop with reinforcements, her work friend Sierra and her college buddy Janelle. I'd met both women at various social functions over the years, and neither had ever impressed me as particularly bright or loyal. They were the kind of friends who thrived on drama and gossip. Perfect allies for someone looking to spread rumors. Eli, we need to talk, Veronica announced, marching into the shop like she owned the place. Sierra and Janelle flanked her like a couple of designer-dressed bodyguards. I was under the hood of a Ford pickup and I didn't bother coming out. Shops closed to non-customers. This is important. So is this transmission. Eli, her voice had taken on that dangerous edge I knew well. Come out from under there and face me like a man. I straightened up slowly, wiping my hands on a rag. Face you like a man? That's rich, coming from someone who's been sneaking around behind my back for months. Sierra stepped forward, her phone already out and recording. We're here as witnesses, Eli. We want to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you really are. And what kind of person is that? The kind who vandalizes other people's property, Janelle chimed in. The kind who can't handle his wife having friends. Friends? I almost laughed. Is that what we're calling Alex Stone now? Veronica's face flushed red. My relationship with Alec is none of your business anymore. It became my business when you started charging hotel rooms to our joint credit card. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. Would you like me to read the charges out loud? For your witnesses? You're pathetic, Sierra said, still recording. Veronica deserves so much better than this. You're right. She deserves exactly what she's getting. I looked directly into Sierra's camera. A cheating boyfriend who's already lining up her replacement. That got their attention. Veronica's confident expression wavered. What are you talking about? Ask your friend Alec about the redhead with the BMW, or the blonde who dresses like a lawyer. Danny at Harborview Towers is very observant. The color drained from Veronica's face. You're lying. Am I? When's the last time Alec took you out in public? When's the last time you spent a whole night at his place, instead of sneaking home before dawn? Janelle lowered her phone slightly. Veronica, what's he talking about? Nothing. He's just trying to cause trouble. But Veronica's voice lacked conviction. Trouble? I shook my head. Honey, I don't need to cause trouble. You've done that all by yourself. That's when Sierra made her mistake. At least Alec treats her like a woman instead of a business partner. At least he knows how to make her feel desired. Sierra, Veronica warned, but it was too late. Is that what he told you? I asked. That I didn't treat her like a woman? That's interesting, because according to the hotel receipts, he's been saying the same thing to at least 2 other married women this month. I pulled out the folder I'd been preparing, the one with copies of everything Danny had told me. Everything Mrs. Costello had observed. Everything I'd pieced together about Alex Stone's pattern of behavior. Your boyfriend has a type, I continued, spreading photos across the workbench. Married women with something to lose. He targets them specifically, makes them feel special, then uses them until he gets bored. The redhead lasted 3 months. The lawyer made it to 4. You're currently at 3.5 months, Ronnie. I'd say you're living on borrowed time. Veronica grabbed for the photos, but I was faster. Where did you get these? Small town, remember? People talk. And your boy Alec isn't as discreet as he thinks he is. Janelle was studying the photos over my shoulder. Veronica, is that the woman from the coffee shop? The one you said looked familiar? I don't know what you're talking about. The redhead. You said you thought you recognized her from somewhere, but you couldn't place her. Sierra had stopped recording and was looking uncomfortable. Maybe we should go. Good idea, I agreed. But before you do, you might want to ask Veronica about the $5,000 in lingerie she bought with our joint credit card. Ask her if she ever wore any of it for me. Veronica? Janelle's voice was small. It's not what it sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like, I said. She used our money to buy presents for her boyfriend. Our money, from our joint account, to finance her affair. The silence stretched out uncomfortably. Finally, Sierra cleared her throat. Maybe we should let you two work this out privately. There's nothing to work out, Veronica snapped. We're getting divorced. The only question is whether it's going to be amicable or ugly. That's up to you, I said. But if you keep threatening my business, if you keep trying to destroy my reputation, then ugly is exactly what you're going to get. After they left, I called Big Mike and filled him in on the confrontation. He listened without comment, then asked, "What's your next move?" I'm thinking it's time to have a conversation with Alex Stone. Face to face? Face to face. Want backup? I thought about it. Not yet, but stay close to your phone. That evening, I drove to Harborview Towers and waited in the parking garage. I knew Stone's routine now. He worked late most nights, coming home around 8 or 9. His silver sports car was easy to spot, and the garage's security cameras had blind spots I'd identified during my previous visits. At 8:30, Stone's car pulled into his reserved spot. I waited until he was out of the vehicle and walking toward the elevator before I approached. "Mr. Stone, we need to talk." He turned, and I got my first good look at Alex Stone up close. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the kind of carefully maintained appearance that spoke of expensive grooming and regular gym sessions. He was handsome in a generic way, like a stock photo model, and his smile was as fake as his tan. "Do I know you?" "Eli Granger. I think you know my wife." His smile widened. "Ah, the mechanic. Veronica's told me so much about you." "I'll bet she has. Just like she told me so much about you." "Look, if this is about Veronica, I think we can handle this like civilized adults. These things happen. No one's to blame." "Civilized adults," I nodded thoughtfully. "Is that what you call targeting married women? Civilized?" His expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. "I don't know what you mean." "Sure you do. The redhead with the BMW, the blonde lawyer. How many others, Alec? How many marriages have you helped destroy? I think you've been listening to too much gossip. And I think you've been playing games with the wrong people." I stepped closer and he backed up against his car. "See, I'm not like your other victims' husbands. I don't have a reputation to protect or a career that can be destroyed by scandal. I fix cars for a living, and I'm pretty good at taking things apart." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm explaining the situation. You picked the wrong marriage to destroy, and now you're going to pay for it." Veronica came to me, you know. She was unhappy, neglected. I just gave her what she needed. What she needed was a marriage counselor. What you gave her was a midlife crisis. Stone straightened his tie, trying to regain his composure. "Look, Granger, I understand you're upset. But Veronica's a grown woman who made her own choices. If your marriage was solid, she never would have looked elsewhere. You're probably right about that. But here's the thing. I don't really care about my marriage anymore. It's over, and good riddance. What I care about is making sure you understand that actions have consequences." "What kind of consequences?" I smiled, and apparently it wasn't a pleasant expression because Stone actually flinched. "The kind that follow you around for a long time, the kind that make people ask uncomfortable questions about your business practices, your personal life, your character, the kind that turn you into a cautionary tale." You can't prove anything. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to make sure everyone knows what kind of man you are. Small towns are funny that way. Reputation matters more than proof. I started to walk away, then turned back. Oh, and Alec? Stay away from my shop. Stay away from my house. And if I were you, I'd start looking for a new girlfriend. Veronica's about to become more trouble than she's worth. The end came faster than I expected, triggered by Veronica's desperation and Alec's arrogance. 3 days after my conversation with Stone in the parking garage, everything exploded in the most public way possible. It started with a phone call from Detective Lena Doyle. Eli, you need to know that Alec Stone filed a complaint against you. Claims you threatened him, vandalized his property, and are harassing him. I was at the shop, working on a brake job and trying to pretend my life wasn't falling apart. What did you tell him? I told him that without evidence, there wasn't much we could do. But he's hired a private investigator, and he's making noise about a restraining order. Let him try. There's something else. Stone's been asking questions about your business. Tax compliance, safety inspections, that sort of thing. I think he's trying to build a case that you're unstable or desperate. Meaning? Meaning he's playing the long game. He wants to destroy your credibility before you can destroy his. After Lena hung up, I sat in my office staring at the wall and thinking about my options. I could back down, let Stone and Veronica have their affair and their victory. I could try to rebuild my life quietly, professionally, without causing any more waves. Or I could finish what they started. The decision was made for me that afternoon when Mrs. Costello called with news that changed everything. Eliseo, you need to come home right now. That woman is at your house with a moving truck and she's taking everything. I drove home to find a U-Haul in my driveway, and Veronica directing 2 men as they carried out furniture that we'd bought together. She was taking the dining room set, the bedroom furniture, even the television from the living room. What the hell do you think you're doing? I demanded. She turned to face me with a smile that was pure poison. Taking what's mine. According to my lawyer, I'm entitled to half of everything, and I'm not waiting for the divorce to be finalized. That's not how it works, and you know it. Actually, it is, especially when the other party has been engaging in harassment and intimidation. She pulled out her phone and showed me a document. Temporary restraining order. You're not allowed to come within 100 feet of me or Alec. I read the order, my anger building with every word. It was full of lies, claims that I'd threatened violence, that I'd been stalking her, that I was mentally unstable and potentially dangerous. This is bullshit, Ronnie. Is it? You vandalized Alec's yacht. You confronted him in a parking garage. You've been following me, spying on me, gathering information about my personal life. I gathered evidence of your affair. You gathered evidence of your own obsessive behavior. She gestured to the moving men. Keep loading. I want everything out by 5 o'clock. That's when I noticed Big Mike's truck pulling into the driveway, followed by Danny's car and Detective Doyle's unmarked police cruiser. Word traveled fast in a small town, and apparently Mrs. Costello had made more than one phone call. Problem here? Lena asked, stepping out of her car. No problem, Veronica said quickly. Just collecting my belongings. With a restraining order that's based on false information, I added. Lena examined the document, her expression skeptical. This was filed in Portland. Emergency hearing, no advance notice to the respondent. That's unusual. My lawyer said it was necessary for my safety. Your safety. Lena looked around at the scene, the moving truck, the furniture being loaded, the obvious coordination involved. This doesn't look like an emergency to me. This looks like a planned operation. I have a right to my property. You have a right to petition for property division through the divorce proceedings. This, she gestured at the truck, this looks like theft. That's when Alex Stone made his entrance, pulling up in his silver sports car like he owned the neighborhood. He climbed out wearing an expensive suit and an expression of smug satisfaction. Officer, I hope there's no trouble here, he said to Lena. Ms. Granger was just collecting her belongings under court order. And you are? Alex Stone, Ms. Granger's friend. The boyfriend, Big Mike clarified helpfully. The one who's been sleeping with Eli's wife for 3 months. Stone's composure slipped slightly. I don't think that's relevant to the current situation. Actually, it's very relevant, Lena said, because this restraining order claims that Mr. Granger has been harassing both you and Miss Granger. But if you're here in violation of your own restraining order, then either you're not really afraid of him or you're using the legal system to facilitate what amounts to theft. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. I'd had enough. You want to play games with lawyers and restraining orders? Fine. But you're not taking my furniture, and you're not turning me into the villain in your little drama. I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I've been building for weeks. Detective Doyle, I'd like to file a complaint for adultery, fraud, and theft. I have documentation of charges made to joint credit cards without my knowledge or consent. I have evidence of adultery, and I have witnesses to harassment and intimidation. Veronica's face went pale. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. I handed Lena a thick folder. Credit card statements showing charges for hotels, restaurants, and gifts that were clearly for her affair. Security footage from Mr. Stone's building showing her coming and going at all hours. Text messages between them discussing their relationship and their plans to deal with me. How did you get text messages? Stone demanded. Shared phone plan, I said simply. Everything goes through the same account. Amazing what you can access when you're the primary account holder. Lena flipped through the documents, her expression growing more serious. Ms. Granger, I'm going to need you to stop loading that truck until we can sort this out. You can't do that. I have a court order. A court order based on false information. Mr. Granger, do you have evidence that the claims in this restraining order are fabricated? I handed her another folder. Timestamped security footage from my shop, showing I was at work during the times I was allegedly stalking them. Witness statements from neighbors and customers, and recordings of phone calls where Ms. Granger admits to the affair and threatens to destroy my business if I don't agree to her terms. You recorded our phone calls? Veronica's voice was shrill. Single-party consent state, Lena reminded her. Perfectly legal. Stone was looking increasingly uncomfortable. Look, this is getting out of hand. Maybe we should all just calm down and work this out like adults. Like adults? Big Mike stepped forward, and suddenly the atmosphere got a lot more tense. Like adults don't lie to judges to get restraining orders. Like adults don't commit fraud and theft. I haven't committed any crimes, Stone said, but his voice lacked conviction. Haven't you? I pulled out the final piece of my puzzle, the insurance fraud documentation I'd been saving for just this moment. Detective Doyle, 6 months ago, my shop was asked to do bodywork on a vehicle that had allegedly been vandalized. We declined because the damage pattern suggested insurance fraud. The vehicle belonged to Mr. Stone. Lena took the paperwork, her expression hardening as she read. Mr. Stone, you filed a false insurance claim. That's ridiculous. I was the victim of vandalism. According to this report, the damage was inconsistent with random vandalism. The scratches were too uniform, too deliberate, like they were made by the owner. You can't prove that. Actually, we can, I said, because I took photos before we reported it to the insurance company. And those photos show something interesting. Paint transfer from a key that matches the key to your own apartment. Danny at Harborview Towers was kind enough to let me compare them. The silence that followed was deafening. Stone looked like he'd been punched in the gut. Veronica was staring at him with dawning realization. You filed a fraudulent insurance claim, she said slowly. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, Lena said. Mr. Stone, you're under arrest for insurance fraud. Ms. Granger, this restraining order is hereby voided due to false information. And both of you are going to need to return any property that doesn't legally belong to you. What happened next was chaos. Stone tried to run and made it about 10 feet before Big Mike tackled him in my front yard. Veronica started screaming about her rights and her lawyer and how this was all a setup. The moving men, clearly wanting no part of whatever this had become, started unloading the truck as fast as they could. And me? I stood there watching my wife and her lover get exactly what they deserved, feeling something like peace for the first time in months. As Lena handcuffed Stone and read him his rights, Veronica turned to me with tears streaming down her face. Eli, please. This isn't what I wanted. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did, I said quietly. You meant for it to go exactly this far. You just thought you were going to win. We can still fix this. We can still work it out. No, we can't. Some things can't be fixed, Ronnie. Some things are just broken. Detective Doyle loaded Stone into her cruiser while the moving men finished unloading my furniture. Mrs. Costello watched from her front porch, probably taking notes for the neighborhood newsletter. Big Mike clapped me on the shoulder and grinned. So what now? He asked. Now I change the locks again, I said, and maybe get a dog. What about her? He nodded toward Veronica, who was standing in my driveway looking lost and defeated. She's not my problem anymore. As if she'd heard me, Veronica walked over, her mascara streaked and her designer clothes wrinkled from the confrontation. Eli, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Sure you did. You just thought you'd get away with it. What am I supposed to do now? I don't have anywhere to go. I lost my job because of the investigation into the credit card charges. Alex going to jail. I have nothing. You have exactly what you chose, I said. You chose him over me. You chose lies over truth. You chose to try to destroy my life to protect your affair. These are the consequences of those choices. Please, I'm begging you, just let me come home. Let me try to make this right. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But she was also a stranger, someone who'd been willing to destroy me to get what she wanted. No, I said simply. Eli. No, Ronnie, it's over. It's been over for months. I'm just sorry it took me so long to see it. She stood there for a moment longer, then turned and walked away. I watched her get into her car and drive off, probably to Sierra's house or Janelle's couch or wherever cheating wives go when their plans fall apart. Big Mike and I spent the rest of the evening putting my house back together, moving furniture and talking about everything except what had just happened. Around midnight, he finally brought it up. You feel bad about any of this? I thought about it. No, should I? Nah, they made their choices. You just made sure they faced the consequences. Think Stone will do time? Insurance fraud? Probably. And once that comes out, I bet some of his other victims will start talking. Guy like that doesn't stop with one scam. And Veronica? She'll land on her feet. Women like that always do. Find some other guy to take care of her, probably. Probably. We finished moving the couch back into place and cracked open a couple of beers. Outside, the fog was rolling in from the harbor, wrapping around the streetlights and making everything look soft and dreamlike. So what's next for you? Mike asked. I don't know. Rebuild, I guess. Figure out what my life looks like without her. Might be better than you think. Might be. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking our beers and listening to the house settle around us. It felt different now, cleaner somehow, like a weight had been lifted. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it, expecting another desperate plea from Veronica, or maybe news about Stone's arrest. Instead, it was from Detective Lena Doyle. Thought you should know, Stone's lawyer is already talking about a plea deal. Seems he's got more to hide than just insurance fraud. And Veronica's been trying to call him from the station. He's not taking her calls. I showed the message to Mike, who laughed. Honor among thieves, huh? Something like that. Another message came through, this one from Danny at Harborview Towers. Mr. Stone's apartment is being searched by police. Thought you'd want to know. Then another from Mrs. Costello. The whole neighborhood is talking. You did good, mijo. And finally, one from a number I didn't recognize. This is Sierra. I owe you an apology. We all knew what Veronica was doing was wrong, but we were too scared to say anything. I'm sorry we didn't have your back. I turned off my phone and finished my beer. Tomorrow there would be lawyers and paperwork and the messy business of untangling 20 years of marriage. There would be gossip and whispers and people taking sides. There would be the slow work of rebuilding a life that had been torn apart by lies and betrayal. But tonight, for the first time in months, I was at peace. You know what the best part is? I said to Mike. What's that? I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to act like everything's fine when it's not. I don't have to make excuses for her behavior or try to fix something that was broken beyond repair. Freedom's a hell of a thing. Yeah, it is. We finished our beers and Mike headed home, leaving me alone in my house for the first time since this whole mess started. I walked through the rooms, checking locks and turning off lights, and for the first time in months, everything felt like it was exactly where it belonged, including me.